Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shifted, where today I want to go off script a good little bit from the numerology topic that we have been discussing over the past few episodes and talk about something that we all experience as human beings, and that's anxiety. Now, specifically, I'm going to be talking about anxiety and entrepreneurship, but whether you're an entrepreneur or not, stick around because there's going to be some golden nuggets in here for you to help you deal with anxiety as well. So, before we dive in, I want you to pause for a quick moment. I want you to check in with your body. Just thinking about anxiety, knowing that we're going to dive in, that we're going to talk about it, that you have to face it here for a few moments. I'm curious to know, how are you feeling inside of your body? What do you notice? Are you feeling constricted, maybe pressure? Do you feel a knot in your stomach? Or are you feeling expanded? Are your shoulders back, you're lifted up, you're leaning in, you're ready to hear what I have to say, what I have to share? I want you to, one, get out of your head, not think about how you feel about anxiety, but what are you physically feeling inside of your body right now? And I want you to take note of that because I'm going to ask you this question again at the end. And I want to see if there is a difference for you between now and the end. Okay, so let's get to it. This week, literally just this week, I posted in a bunch of different Facebook groups, all entrepreneur groups, and even on my feed, a single question. And that question was, what comes up for you when you think about anxiety as an ally? And I have to admit, at first, I was kind of annoyed by the responses that I was getting because I wasn't feeling heard. I feel like people were reading this question and thinking that I was looking for a definition of anxiety or what anxiety meant to them. And while, yeah, I'm super curious as to what does anxiety mean to you, that wasn't the question that I was asking. I was specifically asking, what comes up for you? What do you feel? What do you think? How do you respond? How do you react when you think of the word anxiety as an ally? Because at the end of the day, this isn't the big conversation around anxiety. When we hear about anxiety, we think of it or hear about it from a negative perspective, how paralyzing it can be and how detrimental it can be to your life experience and even to your health. So I wanted to start a conversation that looked at the other side of anxiety. And I specifically wrote the question this way to make a point. And that point is that we all experience anxiety differently, but together we all experience anxiety in some way, shape, or form. It's just, it can show up differently for each one of us because we are all different and we've had different past experiences. We have different energy. We have different thoughts and beliefs. And so this is why, or one of the reasons why, we all experience anxiety a little bit differently. And when the comments really started to roll in and the conversation started to get really deep, everybody that contributed to any of these posts helped me to prove my point in that we all experience anxiety a little bit differently. So, how can we have more compassion for one another when it comes to experiencing anxiety? What is going to cause anxiety for me may not cause anxiety for you, but that doesn't mean that my anxiety isn't real or isn't valid. And just because it doesn't spark anxiety in you at any particular level doesn't mean that I should be judged or shamed. But how often are we doing this? And we're doing this relatively unconsciously, where we're in a conversation and somebody, was talking about a particular topic, and another person in this conversation reacts and like, oh my gosh, that brings on so much anxiety for me. And your brain just automatically goes to, really? that brings on anxiety for you? Like, how can that's not anxious? That does nothing for me at all whatsoever. I'm not afraid of that. I would totally go for that. I'm not anxious at all. That right there, my friends, whether you think it in your head or you say it out loud, that's judgment. That's shame. And that seems to be our initial reaction when it comes around this topic. Now, I saw that a little bit in some of my responses. However, once I was able to get into a conversation with them, their tone completely shifted. So I wanted to share with you just literally two quotes that I got out of many, many responses that I received, just to show you the variety and the scale of these responses. One of them was, never an ally for me. It's soul crushing in so many ways. And I'm curious, do you relate to that? Is that how you view anxiety? Is that your experience with anxiety? And then I had many other comments that were along the lines of, let's get done, right? A little anxiety actually increases performance. I actually had a doctor respond with this. And this actually goes, I mean, anxiety has been studied since like the 1800s, right? We all, or I'm not going to say all, but a lot of us have heard of Freud and all of his studies. And I resonate a lot with his studies and his perspective and his belief around what causes anxiety and the approach that we can take to manage that anxiety. But Kierkegaard made a distinction, and I apologize if I said that, if I announced that wrong. Kierkegaard, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, but he made a distinction between, and I'm gonna read this to make sure that I get this right. But he made a distinction between fear and anxiety, right, which has a specific object, which is very similar to what Freud says in his studies. And anxiety is kind of an unfocused, object-less, and future-oriented fear. And at the end of the day, okay, the importance of anxiety to success is born out of research that is showing that there is an optimal relation between cognition and anxiety in performing life's tasks. In that, with too little anxiety, one is not motivated, and with too much anxiety, then we become impaired. We literally become paralyzed. We cannot move forward. And this came up over and over and over and over again in the responses that I was receiving on my Facebook posts. I had so many people tell me that without their little bit of anxiety, they wouldn't get things done. They wouldn't be as productive as they are because it literally is a pressure for them to push forward and to move forward. But then there's also that same pressure that we can experience in the opposite way. I mean, this is like the law of polarity in like full force right now, right? And that, the pressure to get things done versus the pressure, of feeling impaired under pressure, like can't move forward. And, what I find so interesting is when you start to bring human design into this, there's a pressure center. There's actually two, but one specific pressure center that I'm thinking about is the root center. This is at the bottom of the chart, and either you are defined or undefined. And I'm not going to get into that today. That's a whole conversation for another day. But this will show you how you handle pressure. And you probably already know if you do well or not under pressure, but when you can understand it on a deeper level, then you can have more awareness of it when it comes up in your day. And that awareness helps you to make better or just different decisions than you have been before. And this is what allows us to manage it. And this is some of the work that I've been doing with my clients, and this is why I've started this conversation is because when I work with my clients, specifically members of my Rising Entrepreneur membership, all of them are dealing with anxiety. And most of them are on that more negative side where they become paralyzed by anxiety. They have this fear of the unknown of what's going to happen. And so they either pause in making decisions at all, or they don't have any self trust in the decisions that they're making, or they are doubting decisions that they already have made. Right? They're second guessing themselves constantly, which is blocking clarity of being able to move forward in any direction at all whatsoever. And this is where that paralyzing comes into play. And I have been able to help shift them into a position where they don't freeze up, where they do start making different decisions than what they were, which ends up building trust within themselves to make the right decision, whether they receive the outcome that they were looking for or not. That doesn't really matter. The point is it's about building that self-trust. How can we make better decisions to start to reduce the anxiety that we feel, to hold the grip that it has on us? And to see them do this shift, gosh, it is the most incredible thing to witness. And it just makes me want to do more of this work to help you shift from being trapped by anxiety in your business that is holding you back, or maybe it's keeping you spinning on a hamster wheel and not experiencing any kind of forward momentum, but into a place where, hey, anxiety is actually helpful. It's helping me to see what needs my attention right now. What do I need to work through right now? What kind of decision do I need to make? Am I not ready to make a decision? Do I need to gather more data? Do I need to gather somebody else's perspective? Or do I have everything that I need in order to make this decision to take the next step and receive that data and see what comes out of that? Was this a good decision, or was this a bad decision? And you know what? We're going to make good decisions and we're going to make bad decisions. It's going to happen because we're not perfect, because we are human. And so when we get caught up on all of the bad decisions that we make, we have a tendency of continuing to make more and more and more bad decisions. And why is that? That's because our brain steps in. Our brain is constantly looking for evidence that we are correct. So if we keep saying, I don't make good decisions, or I make the wrong decisions, then when it comes to making a decision, that's what your brain is going to do. It's crazy. It may sound crazy. You may be looking at me like I've got three heads right now. But the reality is that when I take on this perspective, I can see it playing out over and over and over again. I can look back in my life and the decisions that I've made in my business and in my personal life. And I can say anytime that I doubted myself because I didn't feel like I was good at making decisions, I didn't make a good decision. Almost every single time that happened. But when I had confidence in myself, I made a better decision. Did I always make the right decision or the perfect decision or decision that led to the outcome that I wanted? No, but I always made a better decision that got me different data, which helped me to learn more about myself, learn more about the situation, understand myself better, right? I learned something with it, and that's a win no matter what. I mean, you hear the saying that life is a school, and while it can be annoying at times to hear that because we just want to graduate and move on and go live life and get the happy ever after that we were promised as little kids, we already have our happy. We can experience our happy every single day, and anxiety is a part of that. And that can be so hard to wrap our minds around. But I want you to step back for a moment, and I want you to feel what's happening physically inside of your body right now. Are you feeling more anxious? Are you feeling constricted? Are you feeling like this is insane? like super heavy? Okay. Are you feeling light? Are you feeling curious? Are you feeling expanded? What is actually happening in your body? And what has been the change from the beginning of this conversation to now? What would it look like for you if you started viewing anxiety as a tool? Now, I'm going to put this right out there right here right now. I am no expert in anxiety. I am not here to treat, to diagnose, or to prescribe. If that's like what you're looking for, then go seek your local professional that can help you with this. But if you're an entrepreneur that experiences anxiety on the daily, and you feel like it's paralyzing, you feel like it is draining you, you feel like I am not using this as a tool for my highest self. I don't know how to do that. I don't have as much self-trust. I don't have the kind of confidence in the way that I make decisions. And I want to experience that. If you want to get to that place where you don't feel stuck anymore, where you don't have a lack of clarity when it comes to making decision, then reach out to me, reach out to me to book a human design reading. Let me take a look at your chart to see how anxiety really shows up for you and what you can use and what you can tap into at any moment, at any time, in order to start to manage and work with your anxiety in a way that actually helps you during the day instead of paralyzes you. It's incredible to see these small shifts, and you don't need to go out and buy a bunch of books. You don't need to go out and buy a bunch of tools. There's no medication or supplements that I'm going to try to sell you on and say, you need to go out and spend all this money to do all of these things. And you need to set aside time, every single day, every single week in order to implement these exercises. That's not at all what I am going to do. I'm literally going to bring the awareness to you and give you a few simple, practical practices that you can implement on your day-to-day as soon as you start to feel anxiety come up in your body. Now, if you've been leaning into this conversation, then you know what anxiety feels like inside of your body. So my question is what do you do as soon as you start to feel that anxiety? And if you get paralyzed, let's change that. Even just thinking of anxiety as a tool that you can use inside of your business is a shift. Whether you believe it or not, just expanding your perspective of thinking about anxiety as a tool, whereas before you only had a negative belief around what anxiety is. You're already starting to shift. And I applaud you for that, because that's a big step. So if you want to talk more, let's continue this conversation. Shoot me a DM, reach out to me. I'm going to put some links below in the show notes so that we can start this conversation. If you're a part of my newsletter, I've started the conversation in there as well. Simply hit reply. And let's see how we can shift anxiety for you. Hi, I'm Kimberly Romano, Indian wedding photographer turned brand photographer and human design reader. Thank you for tuning into Shifted, the podcast that is here to spark a shift in you that creates big change in your energy, perspective, and direction. And if this episode sparked a shift in you, then subscribe and leave a review sharing what your shift was. Not only will this help others discover this podcast, but your shift can inspire them to have a shift of their own. Please remember, the content you hear in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as legal, health, or financial advice. For professional guidance, I encourage you to seek out a trusted expert near you. Thank you again for tuning into Shifted. Until next time, keep leaning into the shift.